Adugo's heart stopped for a brief second. She knew she could not run away from answering the question. So she said, Obim, I have been meaning to tell you. I could not collect. A long time ago in Araka, a village surrounded by hills and rivers. In the early hours of the morning, the villagers were buzzing with excitement because it was the day of the most anticipated wedding that would bring peace between the villages of Amanze and Araka. Nnamdi, the prince of Amanze, would be getting married to Adugo, the princess of Araka, and their union would seize the war that had spanned for hundreds of generations. The air was thick with excitement, and all over the village there were conversations of peace. Sadly, what they did not know was that by evening, most of them would either end up as slaves and the others dead because their princess was miles away from Araka with her lover Obinna. In the afternoon of the wedding day, the celebrations were now in full gear, and it was time for the people of Amanze to behold their new wife. Adugo's father, King Chika, asked her mother to go and usher their daughter in, but when she got to Adugo's hut, she met two palace maids crying. My queen, my queen, the older maid said. It's the princess. She's nowhere to be found. The queen was horrified. She knew her daughter did not want to marry Nnamdi, but she thought the heart-to-heart conversation they had in the evening of the previous day made Adugo understand the importance of the marriage. When did you notice she was missing? The queen asked the maids. Yesterday night, my queen. She went to say her final farewell to Obina as agreed, and since then she has not returned. With all the confusion that was going on, the queen was certain about one thing: war. Their kingdom was in trouble. So she asked the maids to tell some warriors to take the king to safety. But this turned out to be a mistake because King Dozier of Amanze was a cunning man. He never wanted peace between Araka and Amanze. The only reason he allowed the marriage to happen was to form an alliance with Araka, a land rich with loamy soil that only had the best crops growing from the ground. And King Chika accepted the idea because he was tired of the senseless killings. You see, when the year started, the priest of Amanze prophesied a terrible famine that would plague the land. When King Dozier heard the prophecy, he knew it was time to seek help from another village to help them stock up their barns, so his people would not die during the prophesied famine. But because of his cunning ways, he sent spies to Araka many months before the wedding to get familiar with the village, just in case King Chika decided to play a fast one on them. And on the wedding day, his warriors stood at strategic places waiting for his signal. So when he noticed Araka warriors trying to usher their king away, he panicked and gave a signal, and an arrow was shot straight at King Chika's heart. The whole place was in chaos. The people of Araka tried to defend themselves, but they were up against warriors who had planned their attack on them for many months. So naturally, they lost. The Amanze warriors slaughtered every member of the royal family and prominent chiefs. And as for the commoners, King Dozier put rulers over them, subjecting them to slavery in their own land. Far away from the chaos were Obinna and Adugo, holding each other in joy. They had finally arrived at Osi, the village they had been planning to escape to for months, where no one would bother their love for each other. As Adugo and Obinna set foot in the village, Obinna asked a question that was burning in his heart the moment they set off for their journey.
My love, I hope you took enough gold from your father to help us live a comfortable life.
Adugo's heart stopped for a brief second. She knew she could not run away from answering the question. So she said, Obim, I have been meaning to tell you. I could not collect the gold. They almost caught me, and I would not have been able to make my way to you. Obinna instantly pushed her away from their tight embrace.
What do you mean? How can you be so stupid?
He said, very harshly, with a mean look on his face. Immediately he said that, he realized he should not have spoken that way, but that was enough for Adugo to finally realize and accept what had been staring her in the face for a long time. She did not need anyone to tell her that she had abandoned her family members, traveled across rivers, run through thick forests, and slept in uncomfortable places with the wrong man. A man who only loved her for her status. Days went by, and Adugo and Obinna began settling into their new reality. They found an abandoned hut and decided to start living there, but they could barely afford to feed, and Obinna wasn't making it easy for her. At every opportunity, he blamed her for their situation. One day, Adugo suggested, Obim, let's go out to the village square and find some jobs to do. Or are we going to starve to death? But Obinna laughed at her in the face and said,
What does a princess who has been cared for her whole life know how to do?
Obinna was getting angry again. For as long as he could remember, he was a blacksmith. The gold Adugo left behind was meant to retire him for life. Well, Adugo decided to take matters into her own hands. She went to the village square to look for a menial job. Despite her royal status, she was determined to make ends meet. When she got to the market, the first thing she noticed was the vast collection of African artwork sold in the market. She suddenly remembered all the paintings she saw on the mud houses on her way to the market. It was obvious that the village of Osi took their art very seriously. Adugo immediately felt a sense of welcome because she herself was a wonderful sculptor. She could carve the most beautiful objects from nothing, and her painting techniques were immaculate. As a matter of fact, most of the objects in her father's palace were made by her. She quickly came to a decision to sell her beads to get some money to buy some supplies for her art. And day by day, she began to carve her structures, finishing them with a generous amount of paint. On the day she set out to sell the objects in the market, she felt a sharp pain in her belly. She quickly asked Obinna to get help from the herbalist, and after examining her, the herbalist confirmed to them that she was pregnant. Obinna was disappointed. How were they going to raise a child without money? He decided to abandon Adugo and flee to another village. So, as Adugo rested, Obinna made his way out of the house. But just as he was about to leave, he spotted the sculptures Adugo made. So he thought to himself,
I can sell these to get a little money for food.
but he was wrong. There was no way he would get a little money from them. Adugo knew her craft well. She was African royalty, so she had eyes for only the best things. Obinna had not gone far when he was stopped by a man who wanted to buy all the art he had. Not only was he willing to buy all, but he was also willing to give him plenty bags of cowries in exchange. I need more of this. I have never seen anything like this in OC. You will definitely be one of the richest men in OC if you keep selling this type of objects. After that conversation, Obina decided he would not leave anymore. So he went back home to Adugo and shared the news with her. Adugo was excited. She knew her art was special and would make her a lot of money, but she did not expect it to happen so quickly. So she said, "But Obim, you did not tell me you were going to help me sell them." Imela. Obina could not tell her that he was making his way out of the village when he met the man who bought the sculptures. So he told her that he did not want to bother her because she was resting. "I can't wait to show him the different types of objects I can make," Adugo said. But Obina stopped her right there.
The man believes I am the sculptor. We might seem dishonest if we go back and say you are the one.
Obina was able to convince her that he was better off posing as the sculptor while she worked behind the scenes. And although Adugo knew it was the wrong thing to do, she was secretly joyful to see Obina happy again. It reminded her of the wonderful times they had in Araka. Maybe, just maybe we can live very happily, she thought to herself. But 21 years later, the only good thing about Obinna and Adugo's union was their daughter, Chioma. However, just like the sculptor buyer predicted, they were one of the richest families in OC due to Adugo's sculptures. But their marriage was unbearable for both of them. Obinna constantly cheated on his wife and disrespected her at every opportunity. And in no time, she had turned into a bitter person. When she wasn't sculpting, she was nagging him. But one day, she decided she had had enough. If she wanted to live long enough to see her daughter's children, she knew she had to leave Obinna. So she said to him, "I'm going back to Araka. My parents may not be alive, but at least my siblings will receive me with love." Obinna let out a loud laugh.
Do you think I have not thought about that? 2 weeks after we arrived in OC, I heard from some men in the market that there was a mass slaughter in Araka because a certain princess ran away with her lover.
Adugo looked Obinna straight in the eyes and she knew he was not telling lies. For many years, she had longed to see her family again, but now it was no longer a possibility. Her world was shattered. She walked straight to her room, lay down on her bed, and cried herself to sleep. Later that evening, her daughter, Chioma, went to wake her up from her nap. "Mama, Mama, Kulie, your food is ready." When Chioma realized she was not responding to her, she decided to tap her, but then she noticed how stiff her mother's body was. Immediately, she let out a loud scream. "Ewo!"